field when it comes to standardization. So I've been working on standardization since '99. My majority of my activities are centered around research, design, and standardization. And right now I'm the head of standards at Actility. As you might remember, it's a French startup focusing on LoRaWAN technology. So these are all the standards I've been involved since '99. Since the beginning, I've been working in IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force. I've been involved in the design and development of standards like IPv6, mobile IP, and nowadays LPWAN, and also PANA. And I have chaired the PANA working group. It's a network access authentication protocol we developed, and later it got adopted by Zigbee Alliance and Wi-Fi Alliance. And right now it's going through deployment in Japan, in smart homes, for energy management. And I was involved in WiMAX forum between 2005 and 2012, from the beginning until the end of that standard. It had a very short lifespan. I got involved in the network working group, and I have also led the security task force in that organization. And at CM2M, I worked between 2010 and 2012, where we generated the very first release of CM2M standard. That was the first global end-to-end architecture. And I was involved on the security front again. And I had a few years of experience with 3GPP, SA1 and SA2 architectures, and that's my 5G work. So back in 2012, I started as part of the Samsung Research Center, researching and designing the 5G architecture, and my focus was IP mobility. And LoRa Alliance is something that I've been doing since last year, for about a year. I'm co-chairing the technical committee, and I'm chairing the security working group. And aside from that, Zigbee IP, 3GPP2, DSL forum, etc., I've been involved. I've done some contributions, but not as much as I've done elsewhere. So I've been basically eating and breathing standards for a long time. Now, what is standardization? Basically, it's a process, okay? And that process produces technical specifications. How does it do that? It does so based on consensus, okay? There are multiple parties involved in this process. What kind of people get involved? Users, system implementers, operators, academicians, governments, and other standards organizations. So in a way, it's like a recursive definition, right? Here we're developing a standards with the help of another standard or other standards organizations. But what you need to remember is it's a process, okay? It's a living thing, and it produces specifications. So if we talk about why we do generate standards, what are the motivations? Well, what we seek is compatibility, right? If you're going to build something and it needs to interact with the rest of the world, it needs to have a certain level of compatibility. The way to ensure their compatibility is to make sure they follow the same standard, right? And we achieve interoperability. Systems coming from different vendors, independent vendors, can work together. And safety. Well, safety and quality, they're somewhat different in the sense that the reason we can achieve higher safety and higher quality is because this is a consensus-based process, meaning that there are a lot of people looking at what we're building. So everyone brings in their own view and their expertise, and they inject all these clues to make sure we get out of that, we emerge out of that activity with the highest quality and highest safety of the design, right? If I give you a task, and if you go on your own and spend the whole month by yourself, you come back with a solution, and we compare that with another solution where 50 of you guys get into a room and then take a stab at the solution, which one would have higher safety and higher reliability? Assuming you guys didn't kill each other in the room, 50 of you, which by itself is a problem, by the way, I'll talk about that. The 50 of you would emerge with a better product, okay, a better design, than that single person in that room. But there are some exceptions to that. If I have time, I'll tell you about that too. And ultimately, what we'd like to achieve is commoditization, meaning that I'd like to build a product that can be made available across the world, okay, and everyone gets to use it. How I achieve that? I have to make sure it's based on a standard. And then I'd like to lower the costs. the quality goes up, the cost goes down. I also, because it's also a consensus-based process, I make sure a lot of parties are involved, many vendors are involved. When you have multiple vendors, they compete for price and quality, price goes down. And then you work with multiple suppliers, again they compete against each other, price goes down, okay? And how you achieve that? You set a standard. You say, if you're going to build that equipment, it should be according to this standard, and I'm going to publish this. Everyone can download that standard and build up to that standard, and that brings the prices down. And then the widespread use of the technology. That's the ultimate goal, okay? I mean, if you're going to spend your next 10 years, you want your technology to be used across the globe, right? If only a few people, like your friends and family, use it, what's the point, right? You want billions of people to use it. So that's why you go to standards. And what's the commercial objective behind it? I mean, it's all good, you know, you build something, everyone use it, but how do you justify that commercially? At the end of the day, standards as a process, a consensus-based process, is extremely costly. That means 50 people come from all around the world, like, you know, 6 times a year. They get jammed in a meeting room like that for 3 days, and then they try to agree on something, okay? And these 50 people are from different companies, different continents, different countries, from different parts of the industry, like some of them are operators, some of them are vendors, some of them are chip vendors, some of them are base station vendors. They come together, try to build consensus. It's costly. Even at this, just flying us around is costly, sitting us in a room is costly. And the whole preparation before the meeting, after the meeting, telechats throughout the year, these are all costly. How do companies justify that? Well, there's a gain in this. The gain is, through this process, they make the pie bigger. Meaning that the ecosystem we built, in the ideal case, would span the whole globe for the time being, and later go to the other planets as well, right? We achieve that through standards. So we make the pie bigger, pastayı büyütüyoruz. Secondly, in addition to making the pie bigger, companies also try to get a bigger piece of the pie. How do they achieve that? They steer the standards in their own interest. For example, say we're building a mobile broadband architecture. If I am the base station vendor, I always try to make base station the brain of the system, the most complicated part. Why? Because I would like to charge extra for that intelligence. But then at the discussion, you'll see that there's also a gateway vendor. They will try to put the intelligence in the gateway, right? Now, if I commit resources and put cycles into this, now I have a chance to steer the architecture so that the intelligence, the heavyweight algorithms are placed on the base station, right? So that I increase my share of the pie. The pie is getting bigger. I also want to share my increase of the pie. Plus, another tool that's being used is the patents. Okay, every standards organization have a patent policy. In some of them, you can put patents into the standard, and then you can charge the users of the specification in proportion to the amount of patents you have in the specification. Okay. So there are a lot of tools, but for your patents that you put into the standards, you may have a financial upside. So that's why the companies spend so much money into standardization. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to stop me. Now, in categorizing technologies, we can talk about proprietary technologies. It's like one company that has the design, they are not disclosing it, they are building the product, and you have to go to that single company to get that product. There is no any other compatible product out in the field. Okay, that's a proprietary technology. Then we can talk about trade secrets, right? They have an algorithm, but they keep it secret. So they don't publish a patent, because as soon as you publish a patent, it's publicly available, anyone can read that. But you still maintain the intellectual property of it, except that people can try to bypass that, or they can try to steal it. Say you are in the middle of Asia, you don't care about the patents, right? You just see how it's described. It's beautifully written in the US Patent Office in English. Okay, we can get it translated to my local Asian language, and I can just copy paste, and then if they come after me, you know, let them deal with my government. You know, we have some walls. So if you don't want your technology to be stolen, you might want to keep it a trade secret. Obviously, there's a trade-off here. If you keep it secret, someone can find that secret one way or the other. And if you have not secured the intellectual property, they can just do it. So the most well-known trade secret is Coca-Cola's formula. It's a secret. Okay? You can try to work on it, to reverse engineer it, but for some reason, which by the way can be a nice homework for you, no one has came close. Pepsi couldn't do it, right? It's ugly. It's bad. Yeah, nobody likes the copycats. And then we can talk about standards. There are open standards. Okay, those are the ones that are like published, and one can download them and use them. Although there are intellectual property clauses that can prevent you from selling those products. Okay, you can make it an open standard. You know, students can download them, do something in the lab. Nobody prevents that. But if you were to ship a product based on that, you may have to pay someone something for that. But that doesn't mean it's not an open standard. It is open standard, but there are commercial rules tied to that. And then there's the concept of a de facto standard. You don't build consensus. You don't go into a room with like 49 other companies. You just say, you know what, I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to make it so good, other people will follow it, even though I may or may not publish my standard, and I become de facto standard. So do you know which company heavily relies on de facto standards in the telecommunications world, in the IT? Can you come up with a name? Who? IBM. Who else? Who do you think? Huawei. Okay. Every one of these had their own twist on things, but the most well-known de facto standard setting company is Apple, right? Apple does things on its own way. They don't care about the standards unless they have to. And then they set their own standards. And if you want to play with them, you go to them and then you work with them. They tell you, okay, you know what, you are the headphone vendor, right? You want to be compatible with my iPhone 7 or 8, then here's a spec. You build according to my spec, and I set the rules here. And so they control that ecosystem very well. And the patents, relative to standards, they may be in the standard, around the standard. Around the standard meaning that you read the specification, there's no patent in it. But once you try to implement that, certain implementation has to trip over a patented technology, because they kind of, you can say, oh, they set up a trap there. Okay, bir tuzak kurdular gibi düşünün. The only way to implement that standard is to have implemented in a certain way, and then it turns out that one company out there have a patent on that, right? That's like around. And then there's licensing. So you contribute your patents to the standard. Everyone does that. There's a pool. And then when the technology is licensed to a vendor outside that club or alliance, then there are some royalties, some money coming back, and then companies share that based on their contribution. Yes?
So if you patent intellectual property, like, does it mean that everything that you contributed is listed on the document, that everything is open? And how about like how the...
Well, if your intellectual property, the patented idea is part of the spec, it will be out there, okay? And then anyone reading it would see it, and then they can also associate it with your patent application or your granted patent. They can also match it. Everyone understands that. But then there are rules that says if you're going to implement it, a third party implementing that may have to pay you, or they may have to trade some patent licenses with you. Say you are Huawei, the other guy is IBM, right? And you guys have joined this. You may have cross-licensing agreement, meaning that all your patents, he can use it given that you can use his patents. But then a third party comes along, a new company that hasn't been part of this agreement, you guys can charge that company, or you can take them to the court if they infringe on your patents. Or you can, beat the hell out of them. Anyway. Yeah.
So leaving the law like aside, a third person wouldn't need me to help him to like steal my idea. He would be able to read everything from the patent and do it.
That's the difference between trade secret and something you patented. If you don't want anyone to know about it, you keep it as a trade secret. Okay? For example, Google's search algorithm. It's mostly trade secret. There are patented things, but mostly it's a trade secret. If you don't want others to know about it, you keep it a trade secret. You keep it in a locked room. When you employ people, you make them sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. If they come, learn, and then they blurb about it, talk about it, or if they leave, if they take that algorithm with them, you sue them. So you make sure it doesn't happen. Those are trade secrets. The reason you would file a patent is if there's a chance that someone may accidentally or intentionally come up with the same idea, you want to prevent that. Because with trade secret, if your friend comes up with the same idea, you can't do nothing about it. You haven't protected this idea. And unless he stole it from you, which he hasn't, he's another smart guy, he can come up with the same idea, you have zero protection. But if you file a patent, if it gets granted for like 20, 30 years, no one else can, if your friend comes up with the idea 1 day later or 10 years later, you're still protected. He cannot just use it. So it's a different tool.
Can we reverse engineer a trade secret?
Yes, obviously, you can reverse engineer it. I mean, it depends on how difficult that solution. You can reverse engineer it, assuming you haven't broken the law while you're reverse engineering it, it's a fair game, okay? But if you reverse engineer it by having a long chat with a Coca-Cola chief scientist at a bar, you know, someone might get into trouble with your reverse engineer. Yes.
Can I speak in Turkish?
Yes.
Aslında bu reverse engineering'e çok iyi bir örnek var. Bu Intel'in x86 teknolojisi galiba. Trade secret olarak tutuyorlar, patent almıyorlar. Sonra AMD 4 yıl içinde onu reverse engineering kendi çıktığını çıkarıyor işte. Intel dava ediyor falan ama kaybediyor davayı yani.
Yes, very good example. So these are all tools. There is not a single tool that solves all problems. You need to use them, put them in your toolbox. You know, standards, open standards, licensing, intellectual property, trade secrets, business know-how. These are all tools to stay ahead of the competition. Now, standardization activity is a mix of three things. It has technicality, it has strategy, and it has politics, okay? Technicality because at the end we are writing a technical spec. But the way we are writing that technical specification is every company has a strategy. The bigger the company, the more mature the industry is, the more strategy there is around it, okay? And then when you want to execute your strategy, which is not 100% technical, but it's like a commercial strategy, you need to do politics, right? Because you go there and there's a discussion, you want things to go your way, and then technically there are like 5 ways of doing that, but you want this one way to do it. Another company wants to do 4 other ways. Based on your strategy, there's politics around this. Over time you'll realize you guys, I mean most of you are going to become engineers, right? It's really difficult to just be an engineer and then see the end results of your work, seeing the daylight. So you need to have a strategy and you need to have a politics, some other skill set to make them reality. Now, in the technical specification, we talk about three different things that we standardize: APIs, protocols, and architecture. Now, this is the picture you have seen before. This is the LoRaWAN architecture. Okay, and architecture means that we identify, as much as you cannot read the little text here, we identify different elements that interfaces with each other, like an end device talking to a network server that talks to an application server, and then these are the communication channels which carries signals and data, so on and so forth. This big picture is the architecture, okay? And then between the architectural elements, we talk about protocols. These are the common languages. What is a protocol? It's just a language, right? Exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm speaking in English. It's a protocol. Right? I say hello, and the guy in front of me says, hello, hi, howdy, what's up, something like that, right? I can parse that. It doesn't say Apple. Now that would be a protocol failure, right? So language we use in human communication, we have the equivalent of that with the machines. They send a message, and then there's an expected message coming back. That's a protocol. And then we have an API. Now, the APIs and protocols can be mixed together. I mean, there can be confusion around that. The thing is with the protocol, it's between two nodes that are separate, and they have a communication media, a networking media between the two. So they send a message, they receive a message. But the API, it's in the same node, it's in the same stack, a piece of software interacting with another piece of software. That's what we call API. In the telecom world, if you go to other worlds, they may mix things. But this is an API. For example, you can write a LoRaWAN application, okay, that uses the API here for sending an uplink or receiving a downlink or setting up RF parameters. These are all well defined in an API, okay? So this is like a library in your C code, right? Using those functions, data structures, constants, you can talk to this end device. And then this end device sends messages and receives messages using this protocol. Now, in the LoRa Alliance, we do not standardize the API. It's out of scope for the time being. Later it may change, but right now it's out of scope. But the protocols are in scope and the network architecture is... You go with Cat 1. But if you have something like a smoke alarm, Cat 1 is an overkill, 1 megabit per second. I don't need that, right? On my smoke detector, that's going to say, yay, there's fire. You don't need just a single bit. So that's why for those low-band applications, there are new radios emerging from 3GPP. Did I see a hand? Yes.
I don't really understand the license exempt spectrum and license spectrum, like the dashed lines.
Mm-hmm.
LoRa seems in the license spectrum.
No.
No. LoRa is
Green one.
LoRa is not meant to be that way.
LoRa is this.
Oh, LoRa is
green
this.
one.
Okay, that's a mistake. No, it's okay. It's correct.
Okay, I misunderstood.
License exempt,
Yes.
unlicensed.
Unlicensed.
Okay, no, this is correct. Okay. And if you look at a network stack with like a physical layer, MAC layer, and applications, you would realize that in many cases the solution is composed of different contributors. Like here, the physical layer comes from one vendor, okay? The MAC layer comes from LoRa Alliance, and the application layer, even though we talk about like Zigbee, wireless MBUS, Modbus, etc., the reality today is almost all deployments are using proprietary application stacks, okay? So if you crack open an end device and if you analyze or if you study this stack, that's what you're gonna see. Something standard, something from one vendor, something else from another vendor. These come together to give you a solution. Even more complicated pictures, actually there are too many things happening at the same time, but basically you can have multiple different physical layers and MAC layers coming from different standards organizations like IEEE and YSAN. And the higher layers can come from Zigbee Alliance, IETF, IPSO Alliance, etc. For example, one of those technologies that I have worked between year 2000 and 2008, HANA, this is network excellent application, that's where it lands. And so it sits on UDP, it sits on IPv6, it sits on 802.15.4 coming from IEEE, you know, this part from IEEE, this part from IETF, and this from IETF as well. So there are all these stacks that are composed of components coming from different sources, okay? The sources might be standards organizations, it might be vendors, it might be your in-house development, etc. What matters is modularity. So with the Lego pieces, right? With the same set of pieces, you can build a castle, or a truck, or a Barbie house. Okay, it depends on who you are. You would choose one or the other. But then they're all coming from these modular components. So you can see this is IP, this is DHCP, this is 802.11. That's how you would read it. And then you would just plug them in, and then you'll have your solution. So who plays with Legos here? Still?
Yes.
Okay. Zigbee stack again, there's a PHY MAC network application. This part comes from IEEE. This part comes from IEEE, and the Zigbee Alliance defines the rest. Okay? Network layer application standard. These are coming from Zigbee Alliance. So if you're going to write an application for healthcare using Zigbee, you're going to use this library here, Zigbee Healthcare, that sits on the network, MAC, and PHY layer. And then I told you guys about this IP business, right? You know, Internet of Things, you would assume it's based on IP, but the bad news is it is not in most of the cases. So Zigbee traditionally has not been using IP. And Zigbee Alliance thought it would be great to define how IP gets used over Zigbee. So they went ahead and defined Zigbee IP. What happened to it? It's not being used. Why? Because IP is kind of overhead. For these people with this mindset, IP is an overkill. Why would I need IP? I can still get my traffic from this sensor to the concentrator, and I don't need to stick IP in this. That's the mentality. Having done a lot of work in IETF, that's like, oh my God, it's a big sin. Well, how can you not use IP? It's like the internet thing. But if you live in the other camp long enough, like Zigbee Alliance, LoRa Alliance, then you'll realize you wouldn't use something just because it's cool. You would use something only if it is necessary, absolutely necessary. Otherwise, it's cost for your processor, for your footprint, because you're going to have to put an IP stack. It's going to take away your kilobytes. You have very few of them. It's going to eat your processing power. And there's a management thing. Are you going to have to run DHCP or state status auto configuration? That means 2 extra handshake. 2 extra handshake a day? I'm barely sending 2 packets a day. Why would I have to do another 2 round trip for this, right? Too much. Forget about it. So this thing did not fly. It is there. You can read the spec, but you cannot find deployments much. I mean, there are some, but not too many. And then you see people comparing stacks side by side. You can talk about a native TCP/IP stack with a beautiful PHY, MAC, IP, transport protocols, HTTP, so on and so forth. Then you go to Z-Way. They go like, you know what? Yeah, this is nice, but here's the stack we have. We have a proprietary PHY, proprietary MAC. You know, we have our Z-Way way of doing things. And then you go to Zigbee, they say, you know what, PHY and MAC, we're going to make it standard. We're going to get it from IEEE, but then we have our own stack here. But you know what, we're an open alliance, come and join us. It's a low-cost alliance. You can be part of the game and then use this heavily. Then IT people hit back again and say, you know what, okay, hold on a second. We're back. Yeah, we understand this is heavy. We're going to make it lightweight for you. We're going to, on the same PHY you're using, we're going to make it use IP. But we know IPv6, I'm going to talk about that a little later. It's a little too big, it's huge actually. I cannot stick it in radio. I'm going to make an adaptation of that, so-called 6LoWPAN. This is coming from IETF. It's a slim version of IPv6. So there's all this constant, in a way, competition. There are different ways of delivering the same thing. All you care at the end is when I press the button, that message goes out that says the button is pressed. You can do it using this stack, that stack, or the other stack. And then there's this whole really complicated games being played. Again, this is about the strategy and the politics side of it. Now here, it'll be really difficult for you guys to parse what you're looking at, but I'll tell you. This is the Zigbee stack, okay? The PHY, MAC applications. This is the Zigbee stack. This is what Apple, Intel, and Qualcomm to some point was doing. They say, you know what, the bottom should be standard TCP/IP over Wi-Fi, or just standard Bluetooth. I'm going to put my own applications here, okay? Then there's someone in between. That's Google, okay? That has been, or that was Google. Thread. They say, you know what? Okay, it's beautiful that there's this 802.15.4 radio. I'm going to use that. Above that, I'm going to put 6LoWPAN IPv6 and UDP.